Just reading an article. Chris Weidman said he broke his foot in two places, and he fought Luke Rockhold with the coming off a fresh injury. Uh, uh, Here's the confusing part to me. Luke Rockhold had a staph infection. He was coming off antibiotics, not being able to eat food, severely dehydrated, just very sick when he stepped into the ring and he had to push through it. Chris Weidman had what's that? Bone spurs on his elbows. Now, bone spurs are very painful, very, very painful. So he had to work through that. Plus, he had the broken foot. He had broke his foot in two places, 6 weeks before the fight. Now, it takes 6 to 8 weeks for a broken foot to heal. In addition to that, the foot has to be immobilized, and it takes some time for it to heal properly for proper support. Now, my concern is that these guys were injured, were sick, they stepped in the ring, and they still went out and banked. It's almost as if it doesn't matter how hurt these guys are, they'll fight anyway. Anderson Silva fought with a broken rib when he fought Chael Sonnen. Okay? Then Conor McGregor fought Chad Menendez with a strained knee muscle. A lot of these guys, they're fighting hurt. That's very dangerous. Now, I understand that the UFC has a lot of money on the line and that type of stuff. And this is why I suspect this confirms to me again that Jose Aldo was right in saying that the UFC tried to pressure him to fight injured. Because you had Chris Weidman stepping in the ring, fresh off recovery of a broken foot with bone spurs. And then now you got Luke Rockhold, sick and weak, emaciated, stepping into the ring. You also have Sage North stepping into the ring with a severe strep throat infection to the point where he couldn't fight. He had to tap out. These guys are really real. I believe that the UFC in the commission needs to appoint independent doctors to evaluate these people and let them, no matter how much money is on the line. If a fighter is sick or something beyond his control preventing him from fulfilling his contract, he should get paid a basic amount, just something enough, just like a small $20,000 or $30,000, just enough to cover the cost of his training camp and what he's put in as a sacrifice, and to keep him afloat financially. So he wouldn't have to step into the ring sick or hurt, damaged, risking his life and health just to, recoup the cost. And he just say, okay, well, if I don't do this, I'm done financially. That pressure is on them. If they don't fight, they don't get paid, even if they're sick or wounded. So, to me, it's as a fan, I'm like, well, what's going on here? These guys are fighting hard. That don't make any sense. Both of them sick, hurt, and still fighting. That don't make any sense. I mean, if I wanted to see sick guys fighting, I watched something else. So that's a big concern to me, and that's why a lot of these guys are using steroids, because it aids in fast recovery, cuts the recovery time, allows them to heal, allows them to get better, and then fight properly. And this is why I suspect that a lot of guys in the UFC are using steroids because of this. They're hurt, injured. There's a lot of money on the line, and if they can recover fast, get stronger, and then fight. It's worth the risk to them financially. That's what they're thinking. They take the chance. Some of them get caught. Some of them get away with it. Now, to me, it sounds crazy, but I don't think the steroids make a difference. When Chael Sonnen was juiced up, Anderson Silva used Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and took him out. Kimbo Slice was juiced up. Ken Shamrock was juiced up. Now we saw that fight with Kimbo went. He was barely holding on, no matter how juiced up on steroids he was. So in the recovery process and getting back in the ring, steroids may help them get in the ring to be able to fight. But it certainly does not improve a person's fighting skills or their ability to execute moves effectively. Okay, that comes from training and discipline and practice. So, I believe that the UFC needs to do something about this. The fighters need to be compensated if something happened beyond their control. They shouldn't be putting themselves at risk. And this is why we have the epidemic with steroids in the UFC. Because if these fighters don't fight, they don't get paid. So I believe that if a fighter gets hurt, and I'm saying this over and over again, but it's what I believe. If a fighter gets hurt, something happened beyond his control that preventing from fighting, in his contract it should say that he gets just a minimum $10,000 or $30,000, or even $15,000, just something to keep him covered, cover his medical costs, so he's not desperate and going into a fight in the ring where he's gonna hurt himself. Because you look at a lot of these fights, a lot of these guys go in the ring hurt, severely dehydrated, emaciated, and they get banged up. Rampage Jackson's an example. He went to Japan and he fought, even though John Jones had kicked his knee all the way back. So he was fighting injured. Now, what kind of training was Chris Weidman able to do with a broken foot in 2 places, 6 weeks? I went to the foot website, foot and bone website, and they say it takes 6 to 8 weeks for a foot to heal, and especially if broken in 2 places, the patient has to be immobilized for a period of time so that the bones can line up and heal properly. So you tell me, what type of training was Chris Weidman able to get in if the foot has to heal 6 to 8 weeks first, and then physical therapy can begin afterwards? Really? Huh? What kind of effective training was he able to get in? They had to be in a lot of pain, because I saw videos of him training. He had to be in a lot of pain, and he had to be taking a lot of painkillers. Okay? I'm not saying he was on steroids, but he had to be taking something to get him through that while he was training. This is why these fighters are putting their bodies on the line constantly at risk. It's a serious problem. Very, very serious. I've noticed a lot of fighters in the UFC are fighting hurt. A lot of them. Damage are hurt one after the other. John Jones, he broke his hand, needed surgery on his hand, and he delayed having surgery on his hand until after one of his fights. Okay, so it's kind of like, I know that, there's a lot of money on the line, but the UFC needs to start thinking about the health of these fighters. If you plan a big event and you have to pull one of the fighters, and do it. Don't force them to fight hurt. Don't endanger them, don't put them at risk. And that's my 2 cents. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. And this is Dana White, if you're watching this, think about these guys more carefully. I'm glad that Rafael Dos Anjos pulled out at the fight with Conor McGregor because of the broken foot, and he had the courage enough to say, "Hey, my foot's broken, I gotta pull out." Because as a fan, I don't want to see these guys step in the ring hurt. I don't want they're like slaves, you know. I don't want to see them exploited. I want to see them fight. I want to see them do financially good. I want to know that they can feed their families. I want to go to the sport and see them excited, just be excited about what's going on in the ring. That's really what I want. And that's my 2 cents from the fight chair. Peace out.